The problem with this is every door that you open and do not walk through delays you the compounding effects of making a decision. Options have value until they prevent you from committing. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast, very fun episode of self reflection. Who do you want to be? Is that possible to become that person where you are right now? We talk about identity and what it takes to grow. We have the closing thought of the episode. This is the Ultimate OD podcast. Here we go. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast. Thank you for the likes, the listens, all the people sending me messages. I love talking about optometry. I was recently on an episode of the Power Hour with Eugene Schatzman. Check that out. Let me know what your thoughts, feedback, just what you thought of that conversation. I obviously have this podcast that I put out weekly, and I'm going to be on an episode of Optometrists Building Empires, I think in the next week or two. So I'll let you know how that goes. Love talking about optometry. This episode is more of a self reflection, but I think it's something that all of us should hear and think about because it applies to you at every point in your journey from undergrad, optometry school, your first job, starting your first practice, just the evolution of you. And you can apply this to everything you do in life, not just optometry, but we'll have an optometry focus. So last week, my second associate started seeing patients, and it went really, really well. I'm much better the second time around at preparing him and giving him the best environment possible to be successful. Now, the amount of work and effort it took to get him there in a matter of 3 weeks, pretty intense, and it's a work in progress. We're taking it day by day, but we are improving. The consensus, though, staff thinks it's much better than when I added the first doctor because, again, I have a better environment. I prep them much better. They are more bought in. They want to see the other doctor succeed, and they see his success as their success. We have a better culture, a better team. I will tell you, though, along the way, as me and my first associate were just booming, still are doing well, and then bringing on the new doctor. The effort, the energy, the time that I have to put in for us to be successful is a lot. And I'd look myself in the mirror and be like, what am I doing? Couldn't I have just been happy? We were doing great. If I would have just kept going, why did I make this headache for myself? And again, that's because I was in the middle of it. I still am, but I saw some flashes of good that first week. And I know where we're going and I know we're going to be successful, but these are thoughts that go through my head. And as you guys know, Mondays I have department meetings with my technicians. On Tuesdays I meet with my opticians. Wednesday, the current doctor isn't working Wednesdays until September, but Thursday I had my first meeting with the doctors. Not a one-on-one, but a group meeting. We did a grand round style meeting. Went over some things about the exam that I thought all of us should be better at, what we should be doing, and then presented some cases, and I had a blast. Almost to the extent, not almost, to the extent that it was better than seeing patients. I love coaching the doctors, seeing them succeed, and then coaching my manager and seeing her succeed, developing the systems for the office to flow, function, and grow. And that really kind of surprised me. It's different than what I thought because I always tied my identity to being the best possible doctor. Right? Now I'm thinking my identity that I want to have is obviously we talk about the CEO of the practice, but coach. I love coaching, mentoring, developing. I don't need to see patients to be fulfilled. Seeing them succeed, seeing them give great patient care, that gives me just as much joy. And I feel it's harder to do. A lot of this is me setting my ego aside and working the systems, the environment, tweaking things so they can succeed. Now I have to learn how to do that on scale, but coaching, that's where my identity is. That's where I want to go. And it feels different. It feels strange because this isn't going to happen overnight. It certainly hasn't in my case. This has been 15 years in the making. It took me 13 years, probably 12 years to add a doctor. That is not a quick process. You have to put in the time, find a doctor. They have to put in their time. If they're fresh out of optometry school, they have to graduate, get licensed. It's a long process. So 12 years it took me to want to add a doctor. And then it took me 2 years pretty much to figure out what I just said to you, that I like coaching, that I don't have to be tied to the identity of being the best producer. And even though I've had that shift and I know that's where I want to go and that's the direction I'm heading, I still think to myself, I need to prove myself. If I'm not seeing patients, are the other doctors going to listen to me? Is the staff going to listen to me? And I have the beauty of being in P3 where I can look at the doctors that have multiple practices, multiple doors, or multiple doctors working under them. And they still have the authority. They have the cachet to lead their teams, to lead the business. They aren't getting pushback in the sense that, well, you're not the best. Why would we listen to you? Because they owned the role. I think about in corporate optometry, it's not necessarily a doctor that's leading the team and they'll follow suit, right? It's a good manager, it's a good leader. So I have to ask myself, why do I have that belief? Why do I think if I'm not seeing patients, they won't listen to me? Because if I can't prove it with my numbers, then what am I? And I think that's the belief that sometimes the biggest obstacle to our growth isn't our capability, it's our outdated identity. It's who we've always anchored ourselves to. And I ran across the saying that in order to be who you want to become, you have to sacrifice who you are. So think about that. In order to become who you want to be, you have to sacrifice who you are. And I've done this numerous times. All throughout high school, my first few years of college, I was a football player first. Why? I have no idea. I'm not going pro, but that's how I identified myself. And then I realized that was on borrowed time. I didn't have much time left. I stopped and I got the same high, the same rush that I got in the football field from school. And I know it sounds like a giant nerd, but I did. And studying, getting A's, doing well, that was my identity. I was the student. Went to optometry school, still did the same thing, and then I graduated. There's no report cards coming at me, no feedback. I had to evaluate myself. Took me a long time. And the identities keep changing. You know, football player, practice owner. I want to be the best dry eye doctor. I want to be a dry eye expert. Paul Karpecki, if you will. And I still like dry eye. I still love that aspect of my practice. If I'm going to go to a conference, I'm going to go to practice management, leadership stuff, or I'm going to dry eye, ocular surface disease, anterior seg. Period. That's what I do. But now I can't do every single thing. To get to that next version, to get to the place that I am now, I am constantly shedding skin like a snake. New identity will take over and the old identity kind of sheds away. And that's when you have to realize that you can't keep every identity and still expect to grow. And all of you right now are listening to this and you're in a season. Are you holding on to an identity that is comfortable? It's what you're good at. It's how you've always identified yourself, but it's holding you back from where you need to be, that next step, that next level. And I love this concept, this idea that too many options produce zero return. So think about this. Everyone wants options. We always like to see how many doors we can walk through. And how many times have you said this? I'm going to stay clinical. No? Well, wait, I want to expand. I want to have the best tech in the area. I just want to build my practice, build what I already have. I don't need more doors. I'm going to build this up. You know what? Maybe I'm going to stop seeing patients. I'm going to be a consultant. The problem with this is every door that you open and do not walk through delays you the compounding effects of making a decision. Options have value until they prevent you from committing. And the problem with optometry is we have endless amount of options. And all of us want every single one of them. One of my mentors, Julie Helmus, is an amazing business leader, amazing doctor, and she's constantly telling me, pushing me to do more within the scope of optometry. And I'm like, I can't do that. We have to focus on what we're good at. And what my disconnect has been is I think I have to do it all. Well, if I'm not doing scleral lenses, they can't be doing scleral lenses. If I'm not doing this, they're not doing this. And there's a benefit to this. I really think if you look at some of my articles and review of optometric business, I like the idea of narrowing down your focus, like a laser, being great within your realm. But is it because I think I have to do it all? Or because I think that's where the most value is in optometry? Question I have to deal with myself. I think Dr. Helmus is great at understanding that there's a lot of resources that you can put towards everything in optometry. And if you have the right team, you can do it all. I haven't developed that right team, and I like having the energy to focus on dry eye, ocular surface disease, ocular health and wellness, and optical. And it's made it easier to train doctors up to this point. But again, if I grow and expand, food for thought. But before we get too far off the beaten path and I start mentally thinking about my own situation out loud, remember this. As the CEO of your practice, you get rewards, you get compounding interest by making decisions. Options create possibilities, but too many possibilities doesn't give you value. If anything, it's a distraction. It's an educated way of procrastinating. I just want to know what all my options are. I don't want to make a decision because what if it's the wrong one? I think we're just delaying committing to something. And Alex Hormozy has said that failure and success are on the same road. Failure just exits earlier. And that's the thing that's scary about making a commitment, opening a door and walking through it. Because those other doors now don't exist. And there's a fine line right now between success and failure. You've committed. Do you have the courage, the intestinal fortitude to see it through to the end? Or you can get off early and just accept that it's a failure. Because it gets hard. Remember when I was talking about adding the new doctor? I'm on that road of success and failure. And it would have been really easy to say, you know what, it's not worth the effort. I had a good thing going. We can do a lot of revenue. We're not going to be able to see every patient, but our books are full. That'd be the easy way out. And as I tell you what I want to do, how I want to just coach doctors, have multiple doors, run the business. That's a committed goal. And that line doesn't work without dealing with the struggle that I'm talking about right now. The decisions you make are going to make you want to quit. You'll doubt yourself. You'll question your identity. And this is why most people try it once and they just stick in their wheelhouse. I talked to a bunch of different doctors that have been doing the same thing for years. And honestly, some of them love patient care. That's where they get their value, that's where they get their joy, and they still run great businesses. There's nothing wrong with that. But that has to be your choice and commitment, not making that choice from a place of fear. And that's what I'm dealing with myself. And that's why I'm talking about it. Not because I think you guys are scared, worried, just not walking through a door. But I suspect you're dealing with some things where you are thinking, what's the next step? Where do I go from here? That's why you listen to these podcasts. You want to grow, you want to get better, you want your business to be more than what it is. If you were happy, you wouldn't listen to any of this. You just keep doing what you're doing. We all know there's another way out there. There's more to this. Embrace the struggle and know that successful people will stay on that road longer. They'll see it through. They'll get past that exit of failure. And that's why they succeed. So what I think all of you, what I've been doing myself, is really taking a step back and finding out what gives me juice, what gives me energy. And Sunday night, I sit down and I look at where my week's going to go. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm seeing patients. The highlight of my day, of my week right now, is Wednesday afternoon, because that's when patient care is done and I can work on what really matters. Look at the numbers, think about how I'm going to coach my team, how I'm going to grow the business. Think about the next hire that I'm going to make, where we're going to fit them into our culture, how we get our revenue to go higher. That's where my juice, that's where my energy is. How I'm going to develop my new doctor. Once you find out what gives you joy, you then have to realize, why is that, and what is that different than the other version of you? Is that a new identity that you need to embrace, you need to go towards and go all in? Or are you afraid to do that because that means giving up on something else? And that's what I'm dealing with right now. If I want to go to be that developer of talent, the CEO of my practice, I'm giving up on being the most productive doctor with the best numbers. And right now I have them. And it feels stinking good. It's like, look at what I can do. There's ego involved. And the biggest obstacle for me in my journey since I've started has always been myself. And it's wrestling with this question: which identity am I feeding and which one am I ignoring? You have to kill the current version of yourself to become the new version you want to be. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's a scary pill to swallow. And a lot of us don't do it because we only look at revenue. We see what we do. We see another doctor and we're like, they just can't do what we do. We think we're the best. Don't let your insecurities, your uncertainty stop you from being great. Even though you're good at being a doctor, if you can develop other doctors, if you can run a business, if you can grow your team around you, that's a skill that not many people coming out of optometry school have. Very few doctors have this. Even if they have the skills and abilities, it takes time. If you've run a practice, if you've run a business, you have a skill set that is really hard to duplicate without experience. Don't let it become stagnant. Don't let other people catch up to you. Keep growing. So at the end of the day, the question is, who are you still trying to be because you're afraid to become someone else? I'm still the best doctor, the best producer, and I haven't let that go yet. In a year, I should not be the best producing doctor. I'm working 2.5 days, maybe 2 days. One doctor's working 3.5, one's 4.5. They should be producing more than me, no matter how hard I try. And if they're not, I failed in some way, shape, or form. My identity is not being the best doctor. I'm saying this as a self-help thing, right? My identity is not being the best doctor. Develop the other doctors. Who do you want to be? Who do you have to let go? What identity needs to be cast aside to achieve that next level of growth? Think about it. We'll have more for you next week. Where has the time gone? We are at the closing thought of the episode, and I'll leave you with this thought. Risk not, have not. You have to look weak to get strong. Are you willing to sacrifice mediocrity to be great? Think about that. We are good at what we do, right? There's a level of comfort that you get to and you're good. You don't have to think about it. It's autopilot. And oftentimes that's a level of above average, but not greatness. To leave that above average, but not greatness, you have to level up. You have to do things that you've never done before. The easiest analogy is working out. When you go to the gym, if you want to get stronger, you're initially going to be a little weak, right? That's the whole point of going to the gym. And if your ego isn't going to let you like lift a 45-pound bar, like you have to put the big heavy plates on there. Otherwise, what are you doing? Well, if you can't lift those heavy plates and you don't do anything to work up to it, you're going to fail. So ego has to be cast aside. The first time I started the business, I knew nothing about what I was getting to. I had a bunch of theories, a bunch of ideas. Fell on my face more than once. Talking to the doctor that, my first doctor that joined, we built our dry eye center together, right? But I failed so many times along the way trying to develop it. When she came in, before we developed the systems that we have now, fell on her face. Looked stupid. And it was hard because we cared about it so much more than the general population. Than every other doctor out there, we had a passion for it and we couldn't do it well. That's a really tough place to be. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. We talk about being the CEO of our practices. What does that mean? I don't know what it means. That's why we're searching. That's why we're doing this podcast, having these conversations. And then you get the chance to be the CEO and you're like, this really sucks. I don't know what to do with my time. And you just shove a bunch of patients back on your schedule because that's what I did. And then you wonder, like, if I'm going to see all the patients, why'd I hire another doctor? Seems kind of like a waste of money, resources, time, effort, and energy. So you take the chance and you let it happen. Have not, risk not. Risk not, have not. You're going to look weak when you start. You're going to look dumb. Are you confident enough, have enough willpower to see that through to where you're strong? The two doctors that I hired so far, they jive with me really, really well because regardless of the circumstances, the environment, past, appointments or whatnot, experiences, they know without a doubt they're going to be great. I knew, even though I had never ran a practice, that it was going to work. I was going to find a way. All three of us have this really unwarranted self-confidence that we will succeed. That's a great environment to be in. And both of them, all of us, are willing to look at things from a different perspective. That realizing that there might be a better way to do things. I love what I've built so far. I want you to love what you've built so far, but realize it's not easy. I'm better now with associate number 2 because I sucked with associate number 1. And I had to make some changes because I thought in my head, I can't hire a doctor and have them quit within a month. Really thought it might happen. Doesn't look like it did. But you got to figure it out on the way. Don't be afraid to look weak. Ask for help. Reach out. That's what I have for you. Dr. Lily out.